Captain on deck. A young ensign called out as Captain Jeffrey Serkis stepped through the hatch that led to the Combat Information Center, CIC. As you were, the captain replied. It was Captain Serkis' 10th year in command of the Terran Union starship Reliant. She was a Valkyrie-class battle carrier, fewer fighters but more heavily armed than standard Victory-class fleet carriers, and its armor and armament falling between the Kraken-class heavy cruisers and the Leviathan-class battleships. She was currently docked with the rest of the squadron at the Vesca 3 outpost for resupply and repairs. He returned the salute from his XO, Lieutenant Commander Sarah Wu. What do we got, Sarah? Using his prerogative as captain and friend to use her first name. Morning, Captain. Sorry to get you up here so early, but there is a situation you should know about. The Lieutenant Commander replied. Captain Serkis moved closer to look at the console, as the Lieutenant Commander continued to explain. A Kinzel convoy reported trouble with pirates, and requested permission to dock for repairs, and one of them is docking to get their wounded treated. Okay, a little far out for them, but what's the problem? The captain asked. Well, sir, where are their escorts? They might be chasing the pirates, but they never mentioned them. I also ordered a scan for damage in case we needed to assist, Sarah said. And what did they show? The captain inquired. Nothing, sir, she replied. No damage? Captain Serkis asked. No, nothing, sir, like our scans were being blocked by something or someone. The Lieutenant Commander finished. And scanners are functioning correctly? The captain asked, a feeling of concern growing in his mind. Aye, sir, I checked with engineering and did a quick scan of the station, she replied. You are correct, Lieutenant Commander. Something is off about this, he replied before looking at her. Sound general quarters, if you please. The captain ordered all business now. But before the Lieutenant Commander could give the order, one of the CIC techs shouted. We got inbound. Bearing 310, range 10 kilometers. The ship shuddered under the impact of the torpedo. Where did that come from? The captain demanded. From one of the Kinzel freighters, and others have launched torpedoes at the squadron, the tech replied. Battle stations, Lieutenant Commander, and then shag ass to the bridge, he ordered in a calm voice that helped to steady the crew. Sir! Message from the station, another tech called out. What's the message? Captain Serkis asked. Kinzel shock troops are boarding the station and requesting any available aid, the tech replied. Captain Serkis looked at his XO. Did you catch that? Send half our security detail to assist. Aye, sir, I'll get them started and then get to CIC, she replied. Thank you, Sarah. See you after. He nodded. A second torpedo hit rocked the ship. As the XO left the bridge, another tech called out. Sir, enemy ship on a collision course with the station shield emitter. Ah hell, port batteries fire on that ship, the captain roared. A brief flash of light showed it was too late. Captain Serkis looked at the tech for confirmation. Station shields are down, sir, he replied. Another tech called out. Scanners detect incoming vessels. Remember your training. I need numbers and an incoming bearing, the captain replied calmly. Aye, sir, sorry, sir, the sensor tech replied. 20 ships of unknown type at a bearing of 349. ETA? Captain Serkis asked. 6 minutes, sir, the tech replied. Thank you, he replied before turning to the communication tech. Send that message to the station and all ships. Aye, sir, the tech replied. Captain Serkis checked the screens one more time before announcing. Launch all fighters, bring all weapon systems online, take out the rest of those damn freighters, and the moment the security detail has boarded the station, break us free. Captain Serkis pressed another button on his console. Did you copy that, XO? He asked. Aye, sir, she replied. I'll be there momentarily. Status of the fleet? He asked, dreading the answer. No sign of being ready to fight, sir, a light answered. Thank you, Lieutenant Wallace. Keep an eye on them and update me on their condition, he ordered, muttering under his breath about both hands and a flashlight. Sir, the computer has identified the incoming ships as 9 capital ships and 11 support vessels. the sensor tech called out. Captain, I've reached the bridge and the security detail has left the ship, the XO reported. Very good, Lieutenant Commander. Break us loose and get moving, we're sitting ducks here, the captain ordered before turning to his comm tech. Get me the fleet commander. He sighed with relief as he felt the ship's engines rumble and the ship began to move. Sir! I have the Commodore on the line, the comms tech reported. Commodore Tellar, did you copy our sensor data? The captain asked. Affirmed, Commodore stated before adding. What's your status, Jeff? We're moving to engage. I'm about to launch my fighters, and I sent part of my security force to aid the station. Captain Serkis. You could hear the relief in his voice as the Commodore replied. I knew I could count on you. Can you buy us some time for me to get the rest of the squadron moving? The Kofax is offline for repairs, but I can launch my fighters. I'll kick the other 4 captains in the ass to get moving. It's long odds, but we'll give it hell, sir, was the captain's answer. Excellent, Captain, good hunting, the Commodore announced, and then in a more personal voice he added. Good luck, Jeff, I'll see you after. The Commodore could be heard yelling at someone before the line was closed. Captain Serkis watched the last of the undocked freighters explode when the sensor tech announced the arrival of the enemy fleet. Sir, the enemy fleet is landing, the tech announced before continuing. 3 Tuxa-class heavy cruisers, 3 Veltith-class battleships, 2 Vrud-class carriers, 4 Talag-class light cruisers and 7 mixed-class destroyers and support vessels. I thought you said there were 20? The captain asked. Yes, sir, but it's just landing now, The tech paused for a moment in surprise. It's a Kixer-class supercarrier. Well, the captain said. They must want this place badly to send one of those out of their territory. Fighter Ops informed the CAG to have 2 squadrons begin suppression runs on enemy weapon emplacements. The rest engage enemy fighters and tell him we'll be getting more fighters to assist them momentarily, the captain ordered. Captain Serkis touched the button that allowed him to speak directly to the bridge. Lieutenant Commander, set course for that supercarrier. We might have a chance if we can get it off the field. Aye, sir, the XO replied. Captain Serkis gave a rueful smile at the excitement in her voice. Someone remind her this isn't a starfighter she's flying, he announced rhetorically. A few chuckles were heard from the crew, probably remembering that time in Saturn's rings. Fire control. I want the main batteries on that supercarrier, secondary batteries suppressive fire on their other ships. But wait for my command to launch strikes, the captain ordered. Aye, sir, the fire control officer replied. With that order, the covers for the 4 massive particle cannons slid open, and the 4 turrets that mounted 2 large railguns each shifted to target the enemy supercarrier. A formidable arsenal of secondary armament was raised along all sides of the hull. 20 dual-mounted medium railguns and 8 medium missile launchers loaded with hammerhead missiles. 25 quad-mounted small autocannons and 6 small missile launchers loaded with Guardian anti-missile missiles would provide defensive fire. And watch out for friendlies, damn it! Captain Serkis ordered. The limitations of projectile weapons were outweighed by the highly reduced effectiveness of the enemy's shields. More than 1/3 RD would get through a fully charged shield, and even more as the shields weakened. Human laser-resistant armor reduced damage from enemy laser weapons by 70%, and the thick armor absorbed more damage. All of which helped to improve the odds against most alien species. Captain Serkis intently watched the screen showing the sphere of combat surrounding both fleets and the station. He wasn't fully sure what to make of the Kinzel engaging at such close range. Less than 150 kilometers separated the 2 fleets, and the Kinzel's most common tactic was to engage at very long range and force the enemy to come to them through a rain of laser fire. They must not have expected Terran warships to be present. The captain muttered to himself, "Let's give them a lesson in close combat then." The captain touched the console again. "XO, I want you to head straight for that supercarrier and take us along the ventral side. Once under, we'll rake her with everything we got, even the autocannons. Just don't crash into her." The XO just answered with a laugh. Brief flashes along the hull showed where enemy lasers made contact while human weapons announced their hits by blowing holes in things. The latter is a lot more fun to watch. He listened to damage control with only half an ear. Mount 17 destroyed. Fire on Deck 7, Section 12. Hull breach Deck 2, Section 27. The decrease in incoming fire told him when the rest of the squadron finally joined the fight. He watched the supercarrier loom closer on the monitors. Fire control, as soon as we pass beneath her, open up with everything that can hit her. Even the autocannons, he commanded. And ready the first rack of Shrikes, fire them at the engines once we are clear. The fire control officer gave him a questioning look. I know, but we should be moving fast enough to escape the shockwave when those Shrikes explode, he explained. XO, the moment we clear the underside, I'm launching the Shrikes, so get us the hell out of here. The XO sounded surprised but simply answered. Aye, sir. Captain Serkis watched in satisfaction as railguns, autocannons, and missiles raked her from stem to stern. Chunks of the supercarrier hull were blown off, or simply holed by the close-range fire. With the supercarrier being nearly 3x the size of the Reliant, that left a vast swathe of damage to the ventral side of the enemy ship. Fire control, arm the Shrikes, wait for my command, the captain ordered, intently watching the display of the ship's position. He raised his hand and watched the distance between the Reliant and the enemy's supercarrier increase. He touched the button to contact the bridge. XO, stand by. Fire! He yelled, his arm dropping at the same time. Get us the hell out of here, Sarah! The stress of the moment causes him to forget proper protocol. He watched the monitors in satisfaction as the 8 heavy missiles struck the supercarrier's massive thruster nozzles and channeled some of the blasts straight into the engines. Direct hit! The fire control officer excitedly called out. Another tech called out. She's losing power, sir. Excellent work, people. He congratulated them. XO, get us back to the fight. Fire control, full reload of all weapon systems. And when in range, carriers are the primary target. Fighter OPs, prepare for recovery and rearming of our fighters. Engineering, what's our status? Were just a few of the orders given by the captain while getting ready to get back into the fight. With the supercarrier floating dead in space, the captain had a chance to check the situation with the rest of the fleet. The Aurora was heavily damaged and out of the fight, and he was afraid that a large cloud of debris was all that remained of the nebula. But the Kinzel were paying a heavy price for those victories. Less than half their fleet remained, of which only 3 were capital ships. A battleship and the 2 carriers were still in the fight for them, with the rest dead in space or out of the fight from the damage. As his fighters began to return to rearm and refuel before returning to the fight, he ordered the main guns to focus on the port carrier. With her shields down, she had no chance against the Reliant's rail guns and missiles, one of which must have hit the fuel storage for their fighters. An expanding ball of fire and gas ripped her right in half. As if that was a signal, the Kinzel began breaking contact and retreating, only stopping to retrieve a swarm of life pods and shuttles from the supercarrier. A wave of explosions rippled across the surface of the supercarrier as they scuttled her. That would have been a hell of a prize if we captured it intact, he thought out loud. He watched the last few enemy fighters make suicide runs, but only the Aurora was hit. And then the field was empty of all but the dead and dying. SNR raced out to save as many lives, human and Kinzel, from death's clutches as they could. Fighter OPs, bring our birds home, he ordered. Fire control, secure all batteries but leave 2 dual mounts per side online. Damage control, coordinate with the XO on extra personnel. Comms, get me an update on the status of the Kinzel boarding parties and if we need to send more troops, the captain said. Another steady stream of orders to start the process of getting the ship ready to fight again. They'll mourn their dead later, but first, the living need to be attended to. And then he intended to find out why his men and women died from a supposed ally's weapons. He feared they wouldn't be the last either.